Hey guys, welcome back to Zethythonix channel. Welcome back to H.L.M.S Project UC Part 2, which is New Gundam's episode. Today's episode will be long because there are a lot of variants to go through, so you probably want to grab some snacks and turn on your subtitles first. Make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell next to it to support me. And now, let the long trip begin. Before UC090, most of the MS, whether it's transformable or not, is generally under 20 meters. The RX-90 series were developed as the game changer on the battlefield. The concept of the series was large and non-transformable prototype MS. The meaning of game-changing was over 20 meters new technology-based frame, high output generators, and able to equip Psycho-Mu-related system or weapons easily. The first MS in the series was developed in UC089, introducing Mu Gundam. Originally, the model number was supposed to be starting with MSA, which means Mu Gundam was part of the Project Zeta. However, out of unknown reasons, Mu Gundam was removed from Project Zeta. Later, Mu Gundam was noticed by Earth Federation and Londo Bell accepted it. The model number was changed to RX-90 when it was handed to Londo Bell. As I mentioned in the Sazabi episode, Neo Zeon developed a revolutionary technology called Psycho Frame. Out of respect and wanted a fair and square final match, Shard deliberately leaked the Psycho Frame to AE. Based on this information, Mu Gundam was developed for Psycho Frame testing only. However, Mu Gundam don't have any other information, so most of the settings were remained as secret. The only known information include the appearance was very similar to New Gundam. It was equipped with Psycho Frame cockpit and the only weapon on it is a beam rifle. Only one deploy record was found about Mu Gundam. It was piloted by Armor Ray in UC092 when he was fighting against Neo Zeon ground forces near Aegean Sea. What happened after for Mu Gundam was unknown. Later, another prototype was developed and is called New Gundam Pretest Type, or some of the records just call it PX00531. Unlike Mu Gundam, New Gundam Pretest Type was in a rush and didn't equip with Psycho Frame like it was scheduled. Unfortunately, just like Mu Gundam, the Pretest Type have very little information too. The only weapon on the sketch is just a beam saber. It's not sure what's the primary range weapon. The Pretest Type also have a full body armor system called Land Armor System, short form as LAS. LAS is an armor system that improves the defense and land mobility of the Pretest Type. But other than that, we knew absolutely nothing about its additional features or hidden weapons. During its transportation over Western Europe, New Gundam Pretest Type was forced to be dropped from an aircraft, attempting to stop the Neo Zeon surprise attack on the Verboten base. However, due to overheating and inadequate performance adjustments, New Gundam Pretest Type was destroyed by Sazabi Heavy Equipment Ground Type. The destruction of the Pretest Type was later heavily affected on the development of New Gundam. The third prototype of New Gundam is Prototype New Gundam. Here is a fun fact. Prototype New Gundam is just a Pretest Type, but changing the model number to RX-92B. However, the spotlight is not on the Gundam but the G Commander, which is a large mobile armor / fortress. G Commander was developed based on the potential extension plan of New Gundam, which was the heavy weapon system. Not only using the data from HWS, the developers also included the information from the past. The elements on G armor was included in the final design. G Commander is a heavily armored ground combat equipment called Land Armor System. It's basically LAS, but enlarged the size and massively increased the firepower. As I just mentioned, it's based on the G armor, so even the G Commander was damaged. The fortress part can detach and the prototype New Gundam can keep fighting. During its deployment, the prototype New Gundam will be locked in the middle of the G Commander. The whole upper body is able to do a 360 rotation, which means there is no blind spot. The lower body is a large hover unit. Despite there are a lot of weapons on the G Commander, but G Commander could still handle the weight and move fast during ground combats. Offensively, G Commander was just like its name, a commander in the battlefield. G Commander's firepower was equally strong as a small MS team. The weapons on the G Commander was designed for anti-close combats and anti-high mobility. With all these terrifying features, G Commander was rumored as the ground type GP03. However, none of the materials suggested that G Commander has Psycho Frame or Psycho Mu system, but some of the materials did mention that only new type pilots can use its full power. First, in order to quickly respond to close combat attacks, G Commander can use the pair of 60mm Falcon gun on the head, twin rotary beam cannon on the top and bottom of the chest, or reverse bomber to stop enemy during close range. For mid to long range attacks, G Commander can use the beam machine gun. There is a grenade launcher at the bottom of it which provided various options of physical rounds. 4 beam turrets, a shield with beam rifle, another same shield just like new Gundam HWS, and a missile container on the back. In order to enrich G Commander's tactical strategies, there are 2 bodyguard radio beams stored on the rear thrusters. Originally, it was supposed to be 2 RGM-89T on the back, but due to the overweight problem, it was replaced by 2 BGR. The BGRs were not fancy at all. It's equipped with simple and light equipment. The only weapon on BGR is just a Falcon rifle, which ensure it can operate and attack normally. There are 2 camera and communication system on the side of the head. It's for the pilot to control any moves or attacks with the camera and communication system. It's unsure how many G Commanders were made, but some of the G Commanders were equipped with eye field for beam defense too. A group of G Commanders were launched with an unknown number of MS groups. The Federation forces were ready to fight against newborn Neo Zeon's troops. The 66th Special MS Squad was led by Captain Brown. The entire squad was landed at the area where the G Commanders were guarding. Both sides were hitting each other back and forward. Unfortunately, due to the constant bombardment from G Commanders and the carriers, the nuclear bomb under the ground was accidentally triggered and wiped out both sides. The only survivor was Captain Brown and his Gila Doga. All the G Commanders were destroyed in the nuclear explosion. The 4th prototype of New Gundam is Narrative Gundam. It's another test bed for New Gundam and it was equipped with cycle frame. Different than other prototypes, Narrative Gundam was focused more on actual battle testing, which is why it had different packs and special design weapons for each pack. For appearance and armor, Narrative Gundam shared a lot of parts with New Gundam. However, due to the negative results, it was considered as failure and sealed away by AE. In UC-97, Michelle Law used her political and financial power to break the seal. Narrative Gundam was upgraded with modern technologies. The weapons, armor, and packs were either redesigned or upgraded. For its basic form, the only weapon on it is a pair of 60mm Falcon gun, but the interesting features were not on the weapons. First, Narrative Gundam is the only RX-90 series prototype that have a core block system. The cockpit design is very similar to Project Zeta's version, but Narrative's cockpit was unable to equip panoramic monitor due to technical issues. Instead, it was equipped with the 1st generation monitor, which is a 3 separate screen monitor. The cockpit seat was surprisingly old. It's not a linear seat. The developers heavily modified the standard cockpit into cycle frame standard cockpit, since the cockpit design was not friendly to the pilot, and Narrative Gundam's output was close to Unicorn Gundam. The pilot must wear a cycle suit to withstand the G-force. The suit will also help the cycle frame to operate better and allow a stable NTD system activation. But here is a fun fact. Despite the cockpit design was quite old compared to other MS during UC-97, but the handle in the Narrative's cockpit is a compressed cylinder handle, which was quite advanced during that era. The last feature on Narrative Gundam is NTD system. Earth Federation called it as New Type Drive System, but the true name is New Type Destroy System. But I'm not going to explain NTD in this episode because this system deserves a long explanation. I will save it for the Unicorn episode. The NTD system on Narrative Gundam was secretly added by AE. Unlike the RX-0 series, Narrative don't have a full cycle frame until the C-Pack, which was why you only see the red lights in the eyes and around the cockpit. Also, just like the Phoenix before it went missing, the NTD system can remotely activate it from a separate device. The standard appearance of Narrative Gundam is skinny. Most of the frame was exposed too. However, the exposed design is pretty helpful and allowed Narrative Gundam to use different equipment and packs. Despite the output is similar to Unicorn Gundam, but if Narrative Gundam don't have any packs on, its fighting abilities were even worse than a Jester. So let's introduce the 3 packs that were designed for Narrative Gundam. Coming first is the A pack. This pack is mainly attached on the legs. It's specifically designed for Operation Phoenix Hunt. In order to keep up with Unicorn Gundam 03 Phoenix, the developers added a large thruster on the pack. The thruster will wrap around the knees and extend to the back. There is room for some limited movements, making sure the lower body can move a bit during emergency situations like dodging or emergency aimbag controls. Not only the large thruster, there are 4 large boosters right above the thruster. These boosters were the same model just like the ones on base Jabba Type 94. The boosters were connected through a detachable support frame. It's mainly used for linear acceleration that will be ejected from the pack once it's emptied. These boosters and the large thruster were the reason why Narrative Gundam was able to catch up with Phoenix's speed, making Narrative Gundam was able to try to catch it. If you were trying to catch Phoenix, you must have some outstanding firepower to withstand its insane fighting abilities. The developers designed different weapons on the A pack to help Narrative Gundam to pin down Phoenix. In order to restrict Phoenix's irregular movements, there are 3 5-tube medium missile pods on each end of the cycle capture. During fire position, the hatch will be purged and 10 missiles will be fired at the same time. After the top pod was emptied, it will rotate the next pod to the top and kept firing. On the front waist, there is a high mega cannon cannon for a devastating blow on the Phoenix, but it's unsure whether this cannon is the same one on Double Zeta Gundam or not. The most important weapon on the APEC is the Cycle Capture. There are 3 functions on it. If the enemy is closing in, the Cycle Capture's tips will generate a pair of large beam sabers. If Narrative Gundam needs some mid-range firepower, the tips will fire a powerful beam cannon shot. Once the Cycle Capture reaches to a right range, the claws will slide to the tip and bend. It will create a cycle field to capture the Phoenix. The theory of this field is very similar to Rosen Zulu's Cycle Jammer, except the cycle field was generated from the claws and not from the bits or funnels. Each claw can also generate a cycle field to block any cycle frame related waves. For example, the slash waves coming from Phoenix's cycle frame. Lastly, there is a pair of beam sabers on the back skirt, but since the APEC was mainly used for high mobility battles, the beam sabers don't have any big uses. The narrative APEC was first deployed during the Operation Phoenix hunt, despite the pilot's abilities was unstable and below average, but Yona was able to tangle with the Phoenix and captured it with the cycle field at one point. Unfortunately, Phoenix later broke out from the field and used its cycle waves to disassemble the narrative APEC. Yona was trying to communicate with Ritter's remain consciousness. Ritter replied and kept accelerating to the point where Phoenix reached the speed of light. By the time Yona fired the high mega cannon, Phoenix already escaped and the APEC was later abandoned due to the heavy damage. The second pack is called B-Pack. It's a pack for city battles in the colony, which is why the firepower was limited. In the UC world, it's forbidden to fire in a non-combatant's colony, so the B-Pack was developed to counterattack if the enemy started an attack in the colony first. Since it's designed for city battles, so if narrative B-Pack was fighting against a high mobility or strong firepower MS, it's very easy to be overpowered. Other than the standard 16mm Falcon gun and beam sabers, each forearm was equipped with a small shield. Each small shield was equipped with a quadruple missile launcher. The missiles in the launchers were very weak. Even if it hits the colony surface, it won't blow a hole or causing any critical damages. The small shields can connect together and form a full shield, but the missile launchers will be facing each other so it cannot be fired. The full shield form will only happen if the launchers were emptied. The most important weapon on the B-Pack is a pair of wire-guided assault units. The appearance was very similar to the one on Silver Bullet funnel test type. Yona called it as incoms when he deployed them, but he called it as incoms just because it's wire-guided. The wire on the assault units were actually for revealing the propellant, so technically the wires were not for controlling. Well, what if the wire was cut off? The units can still operate, but it will be slow and became pretty useless. Normally, the assault units will fire a megaparticle shot. The beam output can be adjusted manually, but during NTD mode, the units will be fully opened and turned into a claw. Whether the wire was connected or not, the units will be at maximum performance and able to generate a cycle field to capture the Phoenix. Yona used the narrative V-Pack and participated a mock battle with the Shazar team. Halfway through the mock battle, the cycle monitor picked up a signal and Shazar team went into the colony. However, the signal was a decoy and they met the Sleeves remnants. Yona was getting overpowered by Zoltan. The Phoenix came and saved Yona again, but out of wanting to capture the Phoenix immediately, Michelle forcefully activated the NTD on the narrative Gundam. Yona was trying to stop it, but NTD just operates the Gundam. Phoenix was captured by the cycle field and Yona was getting the flashback. The NTD system responded to Yona's anger and hijacked the second Neo Zeon. The B-Pack was purged, and right before Yona was about to blow a hole on the colony wall, Phoenix came and Rita used her remain consciousness to calm Yona down. In the end, second Neo Zeon was dragged away by the Neo Zeon. The last pack for narrative Gundam is the C-Pack, also nicknamed as Cycle Pack. This pack was not in the original plan, but after the data analyzation of RX-0 series, the cycle frame was miniaturized and equipped on the gaps between the movable and non-movable armor. Since narrative Gundam itself already had a cycle frame, so with the cycle frame placed on the body, its performance was doubled. This pack don't have a specific use or concept, because all the parts and weapons were built in a rush to stop the second Neo Zeon. For the weapon changes, the beam sabers were now on the backpack. The shield was based on the one on New Gundam, but added some cycle frame parts on it. It also contained a beam cannon and 4 missiles on the back. The main range weapon is the beam rifle. It's hastily built together using the rifle on Jagan, but there were some changes. The sensor and barrel was changed to the same standards as the ones on Beam Magnum. The narrative C-Pack was launched to stop the second Neo Zeon from blowing up the entire helium-free base. During the battle, Phoenix was giving power to Yona, before the C-Pack was severely damaged by the second Neo Zeon. Yona did hit the second Neo Zeon a few times, but in the end, the narrative C-Pack was destroyed. Right before Solotan was about to end Yona, Banaji came with his Silver Bullet suppressor. Yona took over the Phoenix with the power from Rita and Michelle. Yona successfully sent both second Neo Zeon and Zoltan into another dimension. In December UC 092, Shah Aznavour has declared war and the second Neo Zeon war was was officially started. Amuro and Bright fought aside with Char during the Grips War, knowing that Char is desperate and being very serious. Amuro believed that Ligazi and Liquid DJ were not good enough to fight off Char's army. Londobel's supply was limited, all because Earth Federation don't want to repeat the Titans situation. After multiple battles against the Neo Zeon New MS, Amuro was deeply noticed that Ligazi was way too outdated, but the government refused to assign any new Gundams or Gundam-related new MS. So Amuro asked AE to design a MS that is suitable for his new type abilities and excellent piloting skills. The first concept blueprint was created by Amuro. It's called New Gundam Amuro Plan. Basically, the base design was using the narrative Gundam and it didn't have special weapons or cycle frame. The forearms and backpack were symmetry. The weapons on Amuro Plan were a pair of 60mm Falcon gun, a pair of beam sabers on the back, and a similar 2-tube grenade launcher from the Zeta line on each forearm. Amuro created two coloring plans. Plan A was the standard New Gundam color. Plan B was grey and white along with his personal emblem. However, this plan was never made and Char deliberately leaked the cycle frame technology to AE. With the new information, Amuro and AE changed the whole design and fused the cycle frame into the new design. The new design is the RX-93 New Gundam. AE made two new Gundams. The first one was called First Lot. It did go for a few testings and it shocked all the Federal Forces officials by its amazing performance. The First Lot wasn't equipped with any weapons. All the electronics and parts were not complete, neither finalized. However, due to Londobel was in a hurry, the First Lot was disassembled and the part were used on the second prototype, which is the new Gundam that we saw in the movie. First, considering that the war might be long, so the development was also focused on durability and reliability. Other than cycle frame parts, most of the body parts can be repaired by mass production MS parts. There are a lot of hard points on the body, making it able to adapt different expansion equipment. New Gundam was also equipped with a new generator, making its overall output was 1.5 times stronger than the standard MS during that era. First, the head was equipped with the newest electronics. The Falcon gun on the side of the head were no longer shellless and able to use 60 or 90mm standards. The arms and legs were simple and easy to repair. All the direction changing thrusters were mounted into the limbs. This design was also helping the overall impact controls. About the handheld weapons, beam rifle is the primary range option. The rifle can switch between three modes: rapid fire, normal shot, or a maximum output shot that is nearly the same like a battleship shot. There is another single shot grenade launcher on the top of the rifle. It can fire different offensive projectile. The shield is custom and with Amuro's emblem on it. There is a beam cannon and 4 missiles on the back, providing different strategic uses. Lastly, there is a spare beam saber on the left forearm. Its output is lower than the primary beam saber on the backpack. The backpack is the standard Gundam type design with 2 thrusters on each side. On the right side of the backpack, this is the custom beam saber. It will generate a curved beam blade and generate a short blade at the bottom of the grip. The blade shapes were alterable, which is flexible. The biggest feature on the custom beam saber is auto power on. The beam blades will only activate during moments of impacting the enemy MS. On the left side of the backpack, there are 6 theme funnels. Normally, the theme funnels will serve as aimbag movement controls, but once expanded into a U shape, the 2 generator arms will generate and accelerate the particles, creating a magnetic field and shoot the mega particles out. The theme funnels were very costly because they have a built-in generator and not using E-caps like other funnels. This design allows the theme funnels to operate longer and the firepower was stronger than normal funnels. Each charge can fire 7 shots and under special circumstances, it will generate a theme funnel barrier. This barrier can only activate by powerful new types like Amuro. The theme funnels reacted to Amuro's will and created the barrier. The barrier is a unique beam shield. Some sources suggested that this is the prototype of the beam shield in around 30 years later. This barrier was able to block both beam or physical attacks, but if a cycle-related weapon entered into the barrier, it would disrupt the cycle waves and cause a physiological damage to the pilot. Lastly, a new hyper bazooka can be spotted on the middle of the backpack. The magazine contains 5 physical rounds. The bazooka can be fired by trigger or directly from the backpack. The bazooka is mainly used for taking out slow and bulky targets, or using it to fool or surprise the enemy. For other tactical equipment, New Gundam's fingers were hidden with bird lime and dummy launchers. New Gundam was first launched to save the Londobel forces. Amuro used the max output in the rifle and fired a battleship-level beam shot. Neo Zeon believed that the reinforcement team came and retreated. After Ligazi was severely damaged, Kayla was captured by Gyune. Amuro came and did as Gyune said. He let the rifle and theme funnels go. However, due to the incomplete adjustment, the theme funnel funnels sensed danger and attacked. Resulted Kera was thrown away and died. In the next battle, Amuro used his superb skills to fight off both Aluva Ajiru and Gyune's Yakudoga. Amuro shot down multiple funnels from Aluva Ajiru and Yakudoga. He also used the shield and bazooka to fool Gyune, then sent Gyune to the afterlife world. Lastly, Amuro met Char and the final battle has begun. Neither of them gained the upper hand. Both of them performed the greatest sword fight in the Gundam history. In the end, Amuro knocked Sazabi down and captured the ejector cockpit. With the resonance from the cycle frames, it created a light and dragged the axes away. New Gundam was disappeared along with Sazabi's cockpit. Both legends were confirmed as MIA then KIA. After the Char's rebel, it's unsure how many new Gundams were made, but one of the new Gundams was piloted by Lieutenant Masada. Masada's version was exactly the same like the one Amuro piloted, except the emblem was changed to Masada's personal emblem. The weapons were different too. The beam rifle and shield were no longer on Masada's version. The left forearm's beam saber was replaced by a beam spray gun. Despite Masada's version have beam funnels and cycle frame, but since Masada don't have new type abilities, the beam funnels were basically decorations. However, Masada did use his mature piloting skills and shot down Neo Zeo Remnant's Yakudoga, but after this battle, his new Gundam was damaged beyond repair too. If the war didn't end so quickly, what will happen on the new Gundam? The answer is that the developers designed 3 potential expansion sets for new Gundam, but none of the expansion set was made. It doesn't matter, we'll still learn about the expansions. The first potential equipment is double beam funnel type, which allow new Gundam to carry 12 beam funnels. Let's count the differences out. The primary beam saber was removed and is replaced by a beam funnel storage rack. The weapons were slightly different. In the original plan, the beam saber and shield was supposed to be newly designed, since the beam funnels were added to 12, so the beam funnel barrier was no longer a pyramid shape but turned into an icosahedron. The second expansion is heavy weapon system, short form as HWS. HWS was developed using the old era data like FSWS plan on the RX-70X series. Just like its name, HWS was focused on improving both offensive and defensive abilities. In order to withstand the additional weight, the developers added servo thrusters all over the body. Each thruster unit got an unknown number of built-in propellant tanks, which further cut the weight down. Here is a small side story. HWS was originally designed for land combat use. Just like LAS, it would use hover units to increase the ground mobility. However, the testing went south and it was considered as failure. So the developers used the remaining data and converted the LAS to HWS, which the latter was designed for space combats. Since I already analyzed the new Gundam, so I will only explain the differences after it was equipped with HWS. The weapons will remain the same except the shield and some additional weapons. First, another additional equipment was mounted over the original shield. It's called High Mega Shield. There are 2 large caliber megaparticle cannons in the shield, which the output is nearly as powerful as a battleship beam shot. There is an independent built-in large capacity condenser and generator system, which reduced the size of the ECAP system and became less heavy. But there is a weakness, the charging time is long and the cannons cannot fire rapidly. The second new weapon is Hyper Mega Rifle, a very flexible and powerful rifle. Just like the standard beam rifle, the beam output of the Hyper Mega Rifle is adjustable. There is another built-in sensor to detect the enemy's distance. Through the cycle frame and built-in sensors, the beam output will be automatically adjusted based on the target's distance. There is another bipod under the rifle for long-range precise firing. Here is a scary fact. During maximum output mode, the beam that came out from the rifle is comparable to several battleship-class megaparticle cannons. Thirdly, there is a pair of shoulder missile launchers. They were developed from the ones on Double Zeta Gundam. The launchers were supposed to be Psychomune grenades, but it was cancelled due to technology issues. But the Psychomune grenades concept was later revived as funnel missile. Alright, I will give you another long fun fact. The chest piece of the HWS set was not missile launchers, it's an I-view generator. However, the Katoki version changed the I-view generator to missile launchers. That's why you see them on MG Katoki version and RG New Gundam HWS. But since we are learning the true history, so the chest piece is just I-view generator. Also, unlike the original New Gundam, the HWS version gave a full internal cycle frame to the New Gundam. I believe that most of you were aware that the HWS set got 2 sub-arms in the front skirt. Yeah, you guessed it right. It's another Katoki changes. The sub-arms were never existed in the MSV settings. The last expansion plan is Full Armor New Gundam. It's in the same vein like HWS but more refined and less recycled design. While HWS set was reusing structure designs from Zeta and Vita series, the FA plan was combining all the great designs and balance them. Some people said FA plan was the early version of HWS, but you can treat this like an extra information because there isn't any proof about that. Other than the original weapons, there are 2 new armaments. The first one is Large Beam Rifle. It's a large and powerful weapon. Again, the beam output is adjustable, but other than than that, we knew absolutely nothing about it. The second armament is a custom shield with 2 auxiliary boosters. Based on the structure and appearance, the custom shield was assumed to be used as an accelerator when it's positioned at the front of the body. Lastly, whether it's the FA set or the HWS set, they can use along with the double fin funnel equipment too. In the Zethythonix's children, New Gundam was replaced by High New Gundam. The basic settings were mostly the same, so again I will only talk about the new changes. Compared to New Gundam, High New Gundam was more completed and ran through more testing. If we are talking about the basic abilities, High New Gundam is definitely stronger than New Gundam. High New Gundam still kept the idea of durability and reliability, which means most of the parts can be taken from mass production MS. For mobility and speed, High New Gundam was equipped with more thrusters in the limbs, which provided a better aimbag control and the movements became more flexible. Also, the successful development of cycle frame was once again assisted by Char, but in a different way. During 5th Lunar's dropping, Char intentionally let Cycle Dogger being captured by Armorer. After the analyzation, Cycle Dogger's data was used on the enhancement of cycle frame, considering that Armorer is a very important power on the battlefield. In order to extend High New Gundam's operation time, there are 2 propellant tanks on the bottom of the backpack. Each propellant tank has servo thrusters on the side. The purpose of these tanks was just like SRAM boosters, to allow the MS to move speedily without expending its own propellant. After the tanks were emptied, it will be ejected from the backpack. Alright, let's talk about the weapon changes. High New Gundam shared the same Falcon gun, beam rifle, new hyper bazooka, and shield just like the New Gundam. First, the forearms were changed for providing more tactical advantages. The spare beam saber on the left forearm was kept. The main difference is on the right forearm. High New Gundam can choose to equip a machine gun or beam gatling gun or a beam gun on the right forearm. The primary beam sabers were now stored in each funnel rack, including the spare beam saber. High New Gundam will never run out of beam sabers to use. As for the fin funnels, there are 6 of them just like the New Gundam. The only difference is that the fin funnels on High New Gundam are rechargeable. The ones on New Gundam will be dead after the fuel and energy was emptied. Just like New Gundam, the fin funnels on High New Gundam can also generate a barrier and change the shape if needed. The biggest feature on the High New Gundam is the Hyper Mega Bazooka launcher. This launcher was modified from H.L.M.S main cannon. This launcher has 2 different versions, the novel and manga version, but no matter which version, the basics and power scale are the same. The launcher itself will be powered by H.L.M.S engine through an energy cable, which means the limitations were quite obvious. According to the manga breakdown, we can now clearly understand the structure. At the bottom and top of the back part, you will see the position changing thrusters. At the top of the generator, there are 2 exhaust fans on the front and back of the generator. At the bottom of the barrel, this tube will carry the cooling materials to cool down the launcher after the firing process. It's unsure whether the launcher was developed from the one used by Hyakushiki or not, but according to the manga settings, the launcher can easily melt down a battleship. Armorer only used this launcher once in the manga. He used the launcher when he was sniping the Axis. However, Quest and Grave came to stop Armorer. Grave somehow cut the charging cable and disconnected the launcher's power source. As the fight kept going, Armorer sensed danger and activated the fin funnel barrier. Then he flew back to H.L.M and reconnected the backup cable into the launcher. Armorer successfully fired the launcher from the unprotected bottom of the pyramid-shaped barrier. Unfortunately, a Musaka class blocked the beam shot and Axis remained undamaged. Very soon, Quest used the remaining funnels on the Alpha Agilu and melted down the cables, as well as rendered the launcher unusable. For the rest of the story, it's pretty much the same like the movie plots, so I will skip it. Just like New Gundam, High New Gundam was able to equip the HWS set too, but this setting was never existed in any Gundam stories. The High New HWS was purely created for cash grabbing, which was why Premium Bandai was the first appearance of High New HWS. All the settings were exactly the same like the Katoki HWS version, which means the subarms and chest missile launchers were included. However, there are 2 new features on the High New HWS. It can carry 2 new hyper bazookas. It also featured a high mobility form. The High Mega Shield will split apart and turn into 2 wing binders, but other than that, there wasn't any new things. During the 3 months development of New Gundam, Londobel noticed that Neo Zeon already deployed Ace/new type use MS like Yakadoga. Considering that the war might be extended, Londobel asked AE to develop a high-performance limited production Ace or new type use MS. The result is mass production type New Gundam. Just like New Gundam, the MP type New Gundam was equipped with cycle frame cockpit and most of the structure was the same. In order to make non-new type pilots were able to control the MP-type New Gundam, the direction-changing thrusters were mostly changed, which reduced the piloting and ambient control difficulties. For cost controls, the engine, thrusters, body frame, and armor parts were all using the standard level components, although the materials weren't exactly the same like New Gundam, but the performance of the MP-type was around 80% of the New Gundam's maximum performance. Thanks to the 4th generation Gundam designs, the MP-type New Gundam was able to equip different weapons and sets through the hard points on the body. For the basic weapons, the MP-type New Gundam shared the same Falcon gun, beam rifle, and shield like New Gundam. The new basic weapons are the beam spray gun and an extra beam saber on the back skirt. The beam spray gun will mount on the forearms, and to put it in a simpler way, is a downgrade beam rifle and it will fire a scattering beam shot. In order to allow both new type and old type pilots to pilot the MP-type New Gundam, the developers designed 2 different sets of weapons. For new type pilots, they would use the Beam Funnel set, which included 6 beam funnels and a new hyper bazooka just like New Gundam. The only difference is the Beam Funnel set was no longer included the primary beam saber. It's replaced by a new beam saber model that was developed from Double Zeta Gundam's hyper beam sabers. Just like the ones on Double Zeta Gundam, the beam saber can serve as beam cannons when it's equipped on the back. The Beam Funnel set included 1 new beam saber, but due to the structure design, the new beam saber cannot be used as beam cannon. For old-type pilots, they can use the Twin Com set, which is equipped with quasi-cycle mule system for old-type pilots to use remote weapons. Other than the basic weapons, the Twin Com set only provided 2 incom units and 2 new beam sabers for the pilot. Each incom unit contained 2 incoms, which the 4 incoms can create a strong barrage and form an all-range attack. Although the MP type can be mass-produced in a short time and the performance was pretty good on paper, but due to the Char's Rebel was ended too early, the necessity of MP-type New Gundam was reduced. After the development was frozen for a few months, AE manufactured at least 1 prototype and deployed it for testing. The official reasons of closing the development included Earth Federation thought the cost was way too expensive, the society was unstable, and the priority was removing the disturbing factors from the society. Despite the development was cancelled, but the data of the MP-type New Gundam was later used on the development of Gundam G1st. In UC-96, Earth Federation asked AE to create a prototype versatile MS. The result is Gundam G1st. This Gundam was developed for other purposes as well. First of all, the tricolor scheme was paying tribute to the RX-78-2 because this Gundam was supposed to participate in the memorable event at Psi 7. Secondly, Gundam G1st was also developed as a prototype for an unknown future mass production plan. In UC-91, Legacy was developed as one of the direct successors from the Zeta line. Legacy was one of the attempts to simplify the Zeta Gundam's design, which was also an attempt to create an effective mass production type Zeta Gundam. To simplify the design, Legacy can use the BWS as a one-off transformation. Despite the BWS didn't work on Legacy, but this concept was once again improved and equipped on the Gundam G1st. The BWS on the Gundam G1st is the GF tank, but I will talk about this feature later. Let's talk about some of the special designs and technologies. As I just mentioned, Gundam G1st used the data of MP-type New Gundam as the base, but Gundam G1st don't have a cycle frame or any new type related system. Different than most of the standard MS design, the main propellant sources are from the shoulders and legs / thrusters. The ones on the backpack and in the limbs are there for direction changing as well as ambient controls. As for the cockpit, G1st used a very similar ball-shaped ejectable cockpit like the Dragon series. Unlike the standard Gundam design, there are gaps between the cockpit and surface armor, which means the cockpit can be seen and potentially be hit by the enemy. In order to strengthen the cockpit, the developers changed the materials of the cockpit. The materials changes allowed a better bulletproof and capable of withstand the heat during atmospheric re-entry. As for the weapons, there is a pair of 60mm Falcon gun on the head. The beam rifle is a hybrid design, which means the power can be drawn from the generator or E-caps. However, it's unsure whether the output of this rifle is adjustable or not. There are 6 beam sabers on the body, 2 in the shoulders, 2 on the side skirts, and 2 on the knees. The ones on the knees can be deployed separately. It's called the knee crushers. The Gundam G1st was also nicknamed as the Hedgehog due to the fact that it can deploy 6 beam sabers at the same time. As I just said, there is a gap at the middle of the torso. In order to protect the pilot, the developers gave a pair of wing shield on the forearms. They were developed from the ones on Double Zeta Gundam, except they have other functions other than defending attacks. First of all, the shield can carry an unknown number of E-caps. Secondly, it can also equip with micro missiles which can be fired individually or all at once. Thirdly, there is a diffuse beam cannon on the side of the shield, but due due to the huge consumption of energy, G1 cannot use this cannon unless it's docked with the GF tank. Alright, let's talk about the BWS on the Gundam G1. After the GF tank was docked with the Gundam G1, it will turn into Gundam G1 DX. The DX in the name stands for Dual Accent. The GF tank will turn into a backpack. The overall performance of the Gundam G1 will be increased by 150%. The docking system will also unlock new features such as the Views Beam Cannon and new modes on the rival. During the DX mode, the two frames will activate together and fused into a cycle frame. The eyes on the Gundam will change from green to yellow. The cycle frame lights will be leaked from the head parts. In order to prevent overheating, the beam sabers on the shoulders and side skirts will forcefully discharge the excess energy. Also, another small fun fact, once the docking is complete, there is a passage to allow the pilots to walk between the two machines. Just like the NTD system, if the system detected a new type pilot, the Gundam will unlock more powers and potentially increasing the performance by more than 200%. But if the system was fully activated, the Gundam G1 must use all 6 beam sabers to discharge the excess energy. Since the GF tank is docked with the G1, which means the weight is increased. During DX mode, the feet will expand and reveal another thruster. The thruster will help a bit in the battlefield, but not much. The expansion is mostly for increasing the landing area when the MS is standing or walking. As for the weapons, other than the weapons on the G1, the G1 DX can use the weapons on the GF tank too. First, the GF tank's arms can extend and allow the G1 DX to use the beam machine gun plus missile container. Secondly, the X cannons will position over the shoulders. The cannons will fire a very powerful beam. Lastly, the cannons can be removed from the GF tank and mounted on the beam rifle. The beam rifle will unlock more functions and able to switch modes according to the battle situation. The rifle can either fire a normal shot, or a scattering beam shot, or a very powerful cannon shot. Or the tip will generate a long blade and turn into a javelin, but the javelin form is mostly used for charging attack rather than basic close combat attack. Due to the fact that the manga wasn't translated, there isn't much storyline that I can explain clearly. To be honest, my eyes were blurry just to translate it page by page, so please forgive me. I will just go through the story briefly. The Gundam G1 was first launched to fight the Sleeves, and the first appearance of G1 DX is when H.L.M. was fighting the Phoenix, which was suddenly appeared in the battlefield. With the increased performance, despite the pilot wasn't very good, but he managed to hit the Phoenix until it stopped. For the rest of the story, I can't really understand it, so I preferred not to explain it anymore. Sorry. Thanks for watching the new Gundam episode. I didn't realize it was this long, and to be fair, a 30-minute episode seems a bit weird to most of the people, because it kind of turned into a TV show length. For those of you who watched every single second, you have my mad respect. You are a legend. To be honest, this 30-minute episode took me a month to edit it. It's kind of impressive for myself to sit through this long. I apologize if you think some of the manga part is boring. I try my best to make it look better, but some of the MS don't even have game footages. For example, G Commander, New Gundam Pretest Type, and Gundam G1. But anyway, thank you for watching this long episode. Please subscribe to me and hit the bell next to it for more videos. If you want to support me even more, consider to make a donation. Link is in the description. Follow my IG at Zethythonix, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.